You want to talk a little bit about Dwayne, your earliest recollections of him?
Okay. Dwayne kicked my ass every day of my life until we were about, I guess I was about 14, 15. And one night we got into some shit about this chick. And the chick started sitting on my lap, and he wanted her on his lap, you know. And he said, "Hey, what about Barbara?" And I didn't ask her to sit on my lap anyway. And that's how old this dates back. Well, maybe I was about 18. And this is the Martinique Club, which is now called back. And so he was really, really wasted on some old cheap wine, Reba or Aruba, what the hell the shit they call it, Thunderbird. Mm-hmm. It's the word. And so I stood up finally and I said, "Listen, I'm gonna have to leave here to keep him kicking your ass and up into your nose." And so I walked out of the place, and he started following me in the car, trying to run over me. And I'm dodging this goddamn car, but I was sober, and he wasn't driving too well. And so finally we got down to a place called Mac's Bar, and I said, "Okay, stop, hold it, get out, here it is, here we go. Come on, hot and heavy, man. You're fixing to meet your goddamn maker." And so he said, "All right, little brother, son of a bitch." And I kicked his ass royal, good and proper. And then we became friends, man. We started playing music.
It's fair to say that you idolized him, didn't you? You loved him more than just a brother. You thought he was really...
He was a genius. He would have been another Stevie Wonder, man, if he lived.
I want to read you a quotation. I want to get your reaction to it, okay?
Okay.
This is a quotation attributed to your mother. And she said the following, quote...
My mother said this?
Yes. Quote, "Dwayne, and I don't say this just as a mother, Dwayne was a brilliant person. We sat on the couch one day, and by this time he had traded guitars so many times he had his guitar, and he said to me, 'Mother, I would go hungry to play this guitar.' Well, then I knew he was dedicated. I knew he had picked his way. He wanted to snatch Gregg out of school, and I said, 'No, you didn't want to graduate, but Gregg wants his diploma.' Dwayne didn't need a diploma. Later he regretted it, but he didn't need it. He had everything born in him that he needed." Unquote.
Amen.
Gregory,
where in the hell did you find that?
Your mother said that once to a journalist named Tom Nolan in 1971.
Okay. That's the year he died. October 29th.
Dwayne had everything in him, as your mother really beautifully put it.
He did. He was, well, see, I used to be a paper boy. Threw them goddamn papers every day, twice. 184 papers twice a day. And he was busy skipping school and playing pool, literally. And so I threw all these papers because I wanted to buy me a guitar, because I had some kind of fascination for him. I mean, I didn't dig Elvis Presley worth a shit, but I dug Little Richard and Jerry Lee Lewis, you know.
To this day, you don't like Elvis Presley.
No way.
You told me that. That's surprising. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And, well, I mean, I don't like, it's not that I don't like him.
But his music never got
you. We're talking about. Hound Dog kind of turned me on, but lukewarm.
but I distracted you. You were into Jerry Lee Lewis and Little Richard.
Boy, am I into Jerry Lee Lewis. That son of a bitch knows how to turn on a crowd, man. He's all right in my book. Hey.
But it was Dwayne. It was Dwayne more than...
Well, so, anyway, I got the damn guitar, finally. After 3 months of throwing papers, I made $21, and it was $22.95. Sears and Roebuck silver tone guitar, and my mother lent me the 95 cents to get. She was a good old girl, so I went and got it, man. I mean, the damn thing, the action on it was so bad, man. My hands were just bleeding, you know, because I never played one before, you know. I didn't have no calluses, and I mean, it was fucking grim, man.
This is when you were living in Castle Heights.
No. This was after that. No, it was in between that. I went to Castle Heights twice.
But about how old were you when you got your Sears and Roebuck $20 guitar?
It was November 10th, 1960.
What I'm getting at here is that I get the feeling that I'm trying to think of the people who you looked up to most as you were growing up, as you were forming.
You mean music-wise?
No, not really. In terms of human beings, it seems to me that your brother Duane was the most significant influence on your life. That's okay. That means. Am I going in the wrong direction, or is it true?
The whole thing turned around. I was the lead guitar player at first, and Duane sang. And then he skipped school, and I went to school, and he went home and woodshedded. And I surfed, he played the guitar and rode motorcycles. And it all turned around, and all of a sudden I was shot out of a job, you know. But you know, shit, the new children shall live because the elders have died.
I want to take you right back for a moment here to Pensacola, because that's where it began. The name of your first group was the Almond Joys. And
no, the first one was the House Rockers and the Untills, and the Escorts and the Shufflers. The first band was the House Rockers and the Untills. The House Rockers were the band, and the singers were the Untills. It was three niggers.
No.
Three black people.
Black people. The Pardo.
Okay. And then what was it? Then it became the Almond Joys?
Yes.
Then it became the Escorts. And that was managed by Toby Roberts.
Then the Almond Joys.
Then the Almond Joys and the Hourglass and the Allman Brothers Band.
Okay, I want to deal with the Hourglass for a moment, because the Hourglass found themselves in Los Angeles in 1967. And in 1967, that was the time of, just before everything.
Mudslides and all that other shit.
Well, the big rock and roll scene was really breaking in Los Angeles, 67, 68.
Jim Morrison and all those people.
Did you know Jim Morrison?
Very well.
Would you like to talk with me about him a little bit?
He pinched me on the ass one night.
Where'd you know him?
From the Aquarius Theater, which was called the Hullabaloo back then.
And he was performing with the Doors.
Yeah, and we were opening up for him.
You were the opening act.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of recollections do you have of Morrison? The reason I ask you about him is because a lot of people consider the Doors and consider Jim Morrison really one of the most influential American groups ever to hit the scene. They regarded him as a legend.
He was a kind of a I don't give a shit person, And I always had the greatest respect for him because I always thought he sang his ass off. And he greatly influenced me. And I hated to see him die. He helped me put my equipment in the car one time. So that makes him all right with me. I mean, if he could bend himself at the peak of his career, if he could bend himself to do that, that's all right with me.
You knew Jimi Hendrix, but just peripherally. You didn't know him well.
I just met him in the airport,
Who else were you hanging around with in the late 60s in Los Angeles?
Nitty Gritty Dirt Band.
Mm-hmm.
We had the same manager.
What was his name?
Bill McEwen.
Mm-hmm.
He ran us around, He didn't do us a damn bit of good. We got about $45,000 in debt to Liberty Records. And they said, Duane finally said, screw this shit. We're going back to Alabama to play at Muscle Shoals in the studio. And he said, all right, let's go. And they said, okay, you can go. and we'll see you in court with a lawsuit. Unless this boy here stays, pointing to me, and stays and records with our 26-piece studio band. And I did, and they all hated me for it. Boy, they did. I stayed, and that was the only time that I was really apart from my brother. It was 11 months. And that's when I wrote Whipping Post, Black-Hearted Woman, Every Hungry Woman, It's Not My Cross to Bear, and all those songs.
This area that we're getting into now is just prior to the time that y'all became famous and big, and just before we get...
No, I went back to, it was one Sunday, it would be about March 23rd, 1969, and the day I was on a Sunday, and the phone rang. It was my brother. It might have been 26th, and he says, I got this little band together, and we got 2 drummers. And I said, 2 drummers? What are you, nuts? And he said, we got 2 lead guitar players. And I said, 2 lead guitar players? What are you, nuts? And 1 bass player. And most of them are into their instruments, you know, and they don't do a whole lot of singing, and nobody does any writing. And then we need you to come here and round it all up and send it somewhere. And he said, we'll send you a plane ticket. And I said, well, what am I supposed to play? And he said, organ. And at that time, I had been behind a B3 Hammond once. And I said, look, I don't know how to play a goddamn organ. And he said, well, if you come out here, we'll buy you one. I said, on my way. So they sent me a plane ticket, and I sent it back to them and hitchhiked out there. I started giving me a little good karma. So I got there, and they bought me Alice. That was my first organ. I had to name her.
Why'd you name her Alice?
No real reason, just a pseudonym.
Go ahead.
And I had 22 songs when I hit town, and they took 2 of them.
Who took 2 of them?
The band. I don't ever know what happened to those other 20, you know. Because I thought I really had my shit together, you know. I mean, those other 20 are just gone and forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't even remember what the hell the names of them were. Because I was under the gun. Just 4 or 5.
We're recording again. There was just an interruption there as we changed the microphone.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Greg.
So one song was called It's Not My Cross to Bear, and the other song was called Dream. And they were really amazed at how fast we learned them. I don't want to mess around with no contradiction here, so I'd like to tell you that after I got there, I wrote Whipping Post. Okay. I wrote it on an ironing board cover. I wrote it with, I couldn't find a pencil, so I wrote it with kitchen matches with a charcoal. I'd strike one and get about a half a word and strike another one. I'd like to find an ironing board cover someday.
Whipping Post is a song that you've probably heard enough of for a while, I'm sure.
I played it about 900 times.
That yet?
No.
Okay, you wrote Whipping Post. What's the next thing chronologically that you remember that was significant in terms of your life and your career? That was certainly a turning point.
Well, we got the damn band together, and we were all playing like hell. We were really playing, every day. I mean, we play about 8 hours a day, and we all lived in the same apartment. Just had a bunch of mattresses on the floor. And we just laid there, and we'd get up and we'd cook chickens in the backyard. We'd go collect bottles and cash them in for the bread, and get the money. And Next thing I knew, we said, well, why don't we do us a gig? And I said, well, why don't we go up to Atlanta and find us a park and just stop there and start playing?
Mm-hmm.
They can't bust us for too much, you know? So we did. So 3 hours later, there was 3,000 people there. And that's how it all started.
Where was that park?
That'd be Piedmont Park in Atlanta. Piedmont Park.
Piedmont Park in Atlanta.
Right.
Was that really the first time that...
That was our first gig. I got pictures of it. I'll show it to you.
Maybe we can include it in this, because that would be great.
I hope so. I'd like to.
What did it feel like to you?
Scary.
Were you confident at all, or just scared?
I knew that they had it together, but I didn't know that I had it together. To be truthful with you.
Some people tell me about their first major performance that they knew at that moment that they were going to be legendary, that they were going to be great.
Bullshit.
You didn't feel that?
No way.
And in those 2 years between 69 and 71, the Allman Brothers were pushing.
Yeah. Actually, what happened was, and the only real drag that I thought about the whole death thing was with Dwayne, is that I always figured he got kind of shortchanged. Because right after he died, the money came rolling in.
But just prior to his death now, because I'll end this tape at that point.
Okay.
Just prior to his death, is this the time now, 1969, 1970, 1971, when you were on that? Is it true that around 1969, 70, 71, that's when you were really on those very high-pressured, high-powered tours?
1970, I worked 306 nights.
Literally? 300?
Literally. And did not pay income tax. Because I did not make $1,600.
How is that possible, to play a paying gig every night?
That's what you'd call a bunch of freebies.
Meaning you played for free?
That's right.
Where did the Allman Brothers Band go during those 306 nights?
Boston.
I mean, would it be fair to say every city in America or every state in America?
Not everyone, no.
What was your circuit then? What general area?
We were just kind of up and down the East Coast. Just helping people out that were going under, promoters, trying to build up our karma. And I guess we won.
No money, though.
Well, that's all right, you know. You don't always have to make money.
How'd you get around? How did you physically move from spot to spot?
Well, I was in a Econoline Ford van.
An Econoline Ford van?
9 of us in there.
Where'd you sleep?
Grim.
Where'd you sleep in these various cities that you played in?
In the Ford van.
Not all 9 of you for 306 nights in the van. I mean, there were some gigs that provided you with hotels, I'm sure.
There was a few of them, yeah, but most of the time we stayed in an old van, you know. We got kind of used to it, you know.
After 300 gigs, and after over a year and a half on the road, with no money, did anybody ever get the idea that this wasn't going to work out?
No, no way. We knew it was going to work, man. By then, we knew it was going to work. I mean, I was scared on the first gig, but after that, I started catching on. And I knew it was going to either work or I was going to die trying.
It was just around this time, after this incredible push, where the Allman Brothers Band were just beginning to form a reputation. Word of mouth was spreading. This is just prior to fame, that Dwayne had the accident. I know, and I really understand that it's difficult to talk about this, and I respect that. But
well, that's reality, you know.
So we will just try to get into this as gently as I can.
Okay.
Do you recall where you were and when you heard?
All right. I was at my house, Macon, Georgia, 1150 Orange Avenue, and I got the phone rang, 8:30 in the morning, And they said, your brother's had a slight motorcycle accident. And the hospital was right behind my house, so I just walked down there. And instead of putting us in the emergency room, they took us to the chapel and knew it was up. And we were all there sitting around this like church-like place, you know, the church pews and the whole bit. And I knew it was over, you know, and it was. I mean, he got a kickstand through the neck, and they revived him. He wasn't DOA.
There's no delicate way of putting it. I mean, losing your brother, especially in such a horrifying way, and after having lost your dad in an equally horrifying way, most people I know would just become a fatalist, would just hang it up, would just say, man, there's something wrong with the world.
I did for a while, and then I just decided it's about time to get my shit back together.
Well, to use it in a beneficial way here, people reading us now who have had personal tragedies in their lives, who can relate and identify on one level or another with what you're saying, will want to know what inner strength did it take on your part to pull yourself up and get on with your life after such enormous tragedy at such a young age. You're not a religious man, you've told me that.
There's only one answer for that. Music.